All right. Yes, Magnus Lagerson. You are one of my, you are one of my favorite payment experts in the world, and it's a great privilege to have you in the hot chair, sitting, all the way up in Stockholm, I guess. So welcome.
Thank you, Joachim, and thank you for letting me visit you digitally. But it's a great honor to be here.
Yeah, no, the honor is sort of definitely on our side. So I think it's great, Magnus. And I thought of where should I really start discussing with you, but where I would like to start is when we first met. Almost like a love romance. Do you remember when we first met, Magnus?
I guess, wasn't it at Clearon?
No, we met before.
We met before.
At your previous office.
Yeah.
It was. Let me remind you. Obviously, I think you have all forgotten. I'm almost feel a bit sore now. No, but I think it was. You were half right, because it was me and Pontus Elfsson. He was the CEO, and but we came and visited you, and we wanted to talk about Blipit. The meeting was set up between Pontus and Kalle Molineros, your chairman.
No,
and I remember it was you in the room, and it was Anders Edlund. And it was, quite a quick meeting. But what I loved about it was that, we came that we need to integrate. We wanted to integrate with Swish, and we had an SDK. And in that very first meeting, I think I don't know if it was you or, well, I think it was you who said, yeah, we'll do that. Done deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I don't even remember. Did we bring in the Bontouch guys at that time as well?
No. You took it. You took the decision. Sort of. You were shooting from the hip and just said, yeah, we'll do that. The Bontouch, I didn't learn about that. Your user development, your app development was done by Bontouch. That was months later.
Okay.
So it was you and Anders and Kalle Molinero, and decision was made sort of on the fly, which was kind of cool. I felt walking away from that meeting.
Yeah, but that's the way we prefer to work, to be able to take the fast decisions, at least from my end. But
yeah, no, but because you can imagine that I've talked to many sort of payment companies and wallets and some doesn't have experience of integrating an SDK, and for them it's sort of an SDK from the outside. That sounds dangerous, but to me it's sort of and I've seen that you have done other integrations obviously as well, and for you it was sort of you understand it's not too harmful to just put in an SDK. What could go wrong really? I guess you feel quite, we put in our stuff in the Swish app, but that's fine on your side.
Yeah. So our strategy is pretty much to become a platform for partners, and then we have to do it. And as you said, we had done it before, and we sandbox our stuff to be protected, and of course have control of all of the integration. So it's very little problem, especially when you have. But you also need a great collaboration working that way, because if there are changes, both parties need to be able to adjust and fix things if things goes wrong. So it's a two-way part that both parties need to be agile and fast in changes if there are errors.
No, I agree, and I think we've both been quite fast in that way. I think you've been working a lot with our Paul Kronholm here on our side, and I think we were one of the first on your I think you came out with your sandbox environment, and we were one of the first one that actually, I think, tried it out and used it.
Yeah, I think you were the pilots in the sandbox, which was good as well. It's always good to just try out, and that's also our strategy, to try to work with a few to start up with, and then go broader in order to be sure it's working. And then it's always good to work with fast movers, because then you see the errors really, really fast.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy, and I want to applaud Swish for having that strategy. Even if you are sort of like in a monopoly, only really one running having you are really so dominant. So in a way, you become almost like a de facto monopoly. But you are very open for sort of startup companies like ourselves or others to, as you said, as a platform that everybody can connect to. You've been very open with that.
Yeah, and it's been also something we have learned a lot. I mean, we have always been a very small company, although we have very big owners and resellers with the banks. We as Swish have been try to be lean and mean and be fast. And we also saw early on, when there was a lot of buzz around open banking, we had the APIs available at the market for partners to actually be able to do something quite fast and quick. So although you could almost see that the open banking could be competing, it was in the beginning a really advantage for us, because we had something to offer to the markets and to fintech companies and also to partners to do something fast. And we always have had our APIs open with a few exceptions, but that has also been a good strategy. I think that openness is very important in order to be successful, at least in order to be small. If you want to do everything yourself, you have to be a big body. And we have been able to be quite small due to the fact that we have instead been working with our partners and the partner networks and the whole ecosystem as such.
Yeah, if we go back when we first met, that was, I remember, it was November 2018. You were not a big organization by that time. If you think more than 2 years ago.
Yeah, I guess we were less than 10.
Exactly. And people don't, I don't, that you were still very much the dominant sort of mobile service provider. And you developed it on, with the banks as your distribution network and the as owners and everything. But Swish, as now in Sweden, has become, what are you, the second most recognized brand? I think it's probably just IKEA, which is sort of a bigger brand.
Yeah, depending on what you measure, sometimes we are number one, but I think from that, I think IKEA and Volvo and H&M are we are all in a big together there.
How big are you now,
number two,
Magnus? How many people now at Swish, sort of?
At Swish, the Get Swish company, we are 18, I think, but then we should not forget also our partners. We have outsourced the development, and we had that strategy before as well. So for the backend, it's Tieto Every, and for the front end, it's Bontouch.
Yeah.
So in total, maybe we are, with all people, full-time employees, maybe 60 if you see
60
like that. Yeah, and that's still not that many with the almost 8 million users, and they now almost at least up to more than 3 million transactions a day, and an ordinary day it's almost 2 million transactions per day. So I mean, from that perspective, we are still small in numbers of people, you can say, and we also have great collaborations since previously with the Bankgirot, and they provide, of course, the real-time settlement platform called BIR, and that's also part of the ecosystem. And then we also have BankID, which is another company, of course, but also a great cornerstone or a big part or an important part of the system. So these different pieces of the puzzle, of course, make it possible for us all to evolve and develop on our own, your own terms. And I think that has been great success for Sweden. And I'm not sure if it's possible to copy in all other countries. And I mean, from Swish, I started 5 years ago, almost. At that time as a consultant. Then we were there were Matthias. He was working part-time as the COO, and then me and our architect Matthias Akalur came in, and yeah, we all worked part-time. For us, it's kind of a big journey we have been on, and but already at that time, 5 years ago, we got a lot of attention, especially from other countries. We got requests and please come and tell us about different successes, companies in Japan, Asia, and when the Swedish ambassadors, when he got people, oh, we have to talk about something. Let's go to Swish, and we had to talk about Swish for all.
Have you bought a red carpet, Magnus? So
no,
you roll it out.
that would never happen. But it's been really a lot of fun also to see the development which is happening all over the world since it all started with real-time payments in Sweden in 2012. 12th of December 2012. Then we were pretty much alone. I would say there was a few other initiatives, and now if you look at the map of the real-time payment systems in the world, I mean, you have seen, I mean, you guys have a lot of contact in India. They are very far now when it comes to real-time payment systems. We of course have all the movements which happen in China, where they have done some incredible things. I mean, that's really incredible. I mean, we are happy now that we have so many we can look at that and learn from, compared to like 5-8 years ago when there was we had to do everything on our own in a way. That I remember in 2017 when we introduced QR codes. A lot of people, they said that QR codes are dead. That's an old technology which never will work. But at that time, we have seen that it worked in other countries. So we fought a lot to actually introduce the QR codes. And of course, it was not a real success in the beginning, although especially some of the fundraising companies liked it right away because it was an easy way, to print the campaigns and so on. But we pushed it out, and we also, during that exploration and development, we created some like a dynamic QR code, which have been used also in different environments like vending machines and cashier system. And that was actually just a coincidence. We were just playing around and found out, oh, we could actually combine the QR code we just did with the mobile m-commerce flow, as we call it, for Swish Commerce. And yeah, it soon become very successful. And that was also part of that. We got snowball rolling, that QR codes could be introduced and used in the physical environments, because Swish is more like a digital kind of way of working. So there we took our first baby steps already in 2018 to get into the physical store. And I mean, and now it's funny when some people offer services with a QR code, people tend to use Swish app to start scanning the QR code instead of using the built-in QR code scanner in iOS or Android, because that wasn't available when we started. And it's pretty funny. Oh, but you have to change it, at least the Swish app can read it. But and I mean, that's only like 4 years ago, or almost 4 years ago. Now we have so much traction of QR codes. And then also what we saw earlier was that, okay, we need, since QR codes are not very popular in Sweden, we start looking into other technologies for making the user journey more easy for the users. And that's when we started to explore Bluetooth. And we had done one thing with the Nets before meeting you guys, and we saw that we need a broader offering and work with more partners in order to make a better user journey. And the good thing with working with the technologies, you can ask, okay, why didn't you use the NFC technology? But at that time, NFC was not even an option because we were blocked out by one operating system. Yeah. And so therefore we went Bluetooth, and Bluetooth has a lot of different benefits where you can add on and be more communicative with the device and with the user. both Crunchfish and also we have, of course, explored the different opportunities. And I think we could do great things by adding more functionality to it as well. I mean, by communicating with loyalty systems and start making offerings using this channel and so on. And yeah, so I think, and like you have also been looking into possibilities of all kind of digital coupons and so on. I mean, so if you have a good bearer for a communication technology for pairing and so on, you can have a lot of good interaction.
Yeah,
and that's the key, I think.
I absolutely agree. And you know, we've moved now from when we met, we were very much like a Bluetooth play with Blipit, but now we sort of pride ourselves that we're sort of agnostic. We don't care if it's NFC, QR, Bluetooth, or even ultrasound that we are starting to actually talk a lot about in India. So we just like you, we're trying to build a partner strategy because I think if we put ourselves in the center of our universe, the digital cash universe that we are trying to create, we are in the center of that, and we need partners in order to spread that gospel around the world. Just like you put yourself in your center of the Swish universe, and you have partners that help you to spread it. So I think it is it's very wise, I think, for a small company to go about it that way, to stay very nimble, stay fast. I read a book where actually it was two books of it's a British sort of management sort of guru. I think it was, he had two books. One was Eating the Big Fish, which is kind of fun right now. It was much before Crunchfish, but it was all about you need to be a challenger. You need to behave like a challenger. You have to be a challenger in order to stay relevant. You have to be fast because if you are slow and you are just, even if you are the market leader, the biggest one, the risk you're facing is that it's going to come a quick fish and eat the big fish, really. And the conclusion in that first book is that even the big companies needs to behave like a challenger company, because otherwise they will be surpassed by small fish. One question, I'll tell you about the other book as well, but would it be possible in Sweden to come up with a second Swish? In India there are hundreds of real-time payment apps. I know you're going to move now from BIR, the banking-owned switching platform, and you're going to go to the one from the central bank, TIPS Inst, or is it called Riksinst?
Yeah, Riksinst, yeah.
Would it be? I know you have a tremendous advantage, a first mover advantage of everybody's on Swish today, but technically, could it come a competitor to Swish? Would you say, or is that now even playing field because of Riksinst coming up?
Yeah, definitely. I think there is great opportunities for competing solutions. But as you say, I think we have such a strong brand now. Yeah. But it's also, it has taken us a long time to build the trust and so on, and it takes much more effort and time to build trust than to destroy or
erode it.
Erode the trust. So of course, if something happens, so therefore, of course, for us, it's boring to say, but performance, stability, and compliance and security are incredibly important.
Sure.
I mean, we know if there is a disturbance, there is a note in Aftonbladet before we hardly know it.
And I always send you those notes, and I'm saying, good, Magnus, I think you've plug the Swish in order to get our digital cash solution is. I'm every time it happens, I don't know, I tease you by sending you it and saying, great, Magnus, you did it again. Thank you for killing something in your ecosystem.
Yeah, no, but it's true. And that's the hard part. We have to be available. I mean, 5 years ago, if we were down for a few minutes or hours, it if it started to be hours, of course we were in the press, but now it's within, if there are minutes or seconds, we are in the press.
Yeah.
And that therefore it's so important that the full ecosystem is working, and we have to do everything we can in order to have such a stable as possible ecosystem. And as long as we can keep that, I think we can keep a competitor on an arm length.
Yeah.
But that means that we have to be fast and evolving and developing. If we get the big fat fish, we would
eat you.
yeah. It's as simple as that. And of course also with the open banking interfaces, that also with and together with the Riksinst infrastructure, it's a lot of possibilities for competing solutions.
Yeah.
And I think what we have learned during the years and what we have seen in the different initiatives all over the world, one of the biggest strengths with Swish is that there is one brand. So people, even if they change bank, they know it works the same way. While in other countries, they started up with, like, you had bank X Swish, you had a bank Y Swish. Then they could, of course, work with each other, but like interoperability or through a common platform. But people didn't recognize it. Now you know when you show your confirmation screen, or you know what to expect when you have done a payment. So the process from a user experience perspective is the same, independent of which bank you have the agreement with.
Yeah.
And I think that is very important, and that is hard to copy for one provider starting to do something at the open banking interface with bank XYZ, because that's the way they can. Well, and then of course there could be a very large fish. I mean, we see in India, for instance, that there are very large fishes swimming around in that lake, and of course they if they start to move in this direction with the infrastructure which will be available in Sweden, of course there could be great threats. So there is no room for resting. We have to be on our toes.
And let's. I'm gonna remind myself. I'm gonna talk about the second book because I think it's a fun one. But let's move to the robustness. As you say, you are, maybe not your face, but certainly your brand is on newspapers if it breaks down, and that's sort of what we think we bring with our digital cash. Yes, that stability. Just like people used to have money in their wallet, now I think you could have wallet on Swish, sort of money on Swish, basically, and that would take care of all these. I think is your term, Magnus. You say we live in Ericsson land, so the IT infrastructure is great, which I think it is here. I pride myself. I've worked my term at Ericsson 5-6 years, so I think it's great that we have that, and that's why cash is disappearing, because it's so easy and convenient to pay digitally. But there are those, failures. It could be bank ID, nothing to do with you Magnus, and it could be a bank server going down, or Swish, or the network, or whatever. So it's kind of a sensitive system. So I believe it's what we have come up with this two-tier settlements architecture, that you settle offline, and then when you get the ability, that could be a millisecond later, or an hour later, it doesn't matter. As the merchant, you've been paid, and you can let go of the customer. What do you, Magnus, think of this sort of innovation of ours that could run also be applicable for Swish?
Yeah, but I believe that it's a very good idea to. I mean, we would like to be online, of course, as much as possible, but even in an ordinary life, you are not online all the time. You can go with a ferry to Gotland, for instance. Then there are 1 hour on the sea, which is very hard because then you are not online. So you have to read a paper book or a Kindle book, which is offline. but and also in the airplanes and so on, or where the internet connection is poor and you cannot really trust it. So even there are use cases where you should be able to use Swish as a service, which we can't today. And both, I mean, we have Bank ID as well as Swish, which both are online today. So, but with the digital cash solution, of course, we would have less problems when a bank is down, and even also, let's say when we will transition from the beer system to the Riksin system, and that's also a critical movement. It's like our architect Morteza says, it's like having surgery on a marathon runner while he's running. Yeah. Because we would like, of course, it not to be stopped. We have to keep doing it, and we have to do microsurgery for some days in order for it to be. And also when we have very few service windows, and we try to have a good redundancy during that time, of course, but sometimes you have to do hard stops, even if it's planned, and also then have the capability of handling these things.
Yeah, and I haven't thought of that aspect, that even for you, this would, because you can basically go out to tell everybody, almost like you say, you know, when right now we're going to turn off your water. They sometimes tell you, so you know, tap up some water because it's going to be off now for 3 hours. You can do those scheduled maintenance in a way, and tell people that put you know, some extra money on Swish on your. So you have what you need for those 3 hours when we're going to be offline. Basically, we are maintaining, or we are doing something.
Yeah, it's like this night we had I think two hours where we had full stop because we needed to do hardware and changes and not hardware, but yeah, firmware upgrades and so on. And that, of course, is now when we have planned, we can choose to do it when we know it's low traffic. But sometimes you cannot really know when there is low traffic, because suddenly there is something happening and we don't know. We cannot predict everything happening. I mean, let's say there is a big gambling event some other place in the world which is provided, then suddenly there could be a peak in the middle of the night, which we have no clue of. There could be an auction for something. It can be like someone releases tickets for a digital live concert in Australia. Suddenly there is a peak at 4 o'clock at night, and then we are stopped, and that might be the only most popular payment method might be Swish. Of course, then people usually have something else they could use, but we of course would like to be always. We always would like to be the first choice.
Yeah.
And when you let someone else be the first choice, or that's how we have established, is actually to nibble and becoming the first choice, because
eating
we have
the
been
big fish.
Yeah. From the big fishes, of course, and now as you are into, we might yeah, we are of course there, and we always challenge, so we have to find new ways.
No, but I think you stay relevant, Magnus, just like you, because of what you are saying yourself. You've said it many times. You have to continue to be a challenger. You know, you're not giving that up just because you now are, you know, are big. You understand that that's a recipe for success, to be fast, be nimble, and you know, challenge the status quo, move on, and I think that's exactly what that book is sort of talking about. That you, yeah, that's how to stay relevant, even if you're big. That doesn't prevent you from actually, you know, still be a challenger, which I think you have that mindset.
Yeah, that's at least what we hope to be and would like to be.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense. The other book, it's that he also wrote, because he wrote a follow-up, and that's the book is called The Pirate Within. Adam Morgan, The Pirate Within. And the book actually starts with a quote from Steve Jobs in the very early days when he, with his small team, probably our size of Crunchfish or your size of Swish, around sort of 20 odd people, he was saying, it's more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy. Because I think all these guys could have joined, I don't know, IBM at that time, or Microsoft, or I don't know, they were probably also a startup at that time, but to one of the big ones, really. But no, we're going to be pirates. It's more fun. And this book is all about the culture of those challenger companies, meaning that to stay a challenger, you behave like pirates, not the sense that you rape and pillage. That's not what we're talking about, but it's that you have a code of conduct. With it, you are almost like you're a very tight team sailing the 7 seas and actually having quite fun as well. But take away all these negative connotations. But and there is very strong code of conduct within the pirates. So how you have to behave, your values, and your and it's it is a good metaphor to actually to be a pirate. And I've always liked that. And I've told some people, even whilst recruiting, it's more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy. Would you say that you are a pirate ship in Swish?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our owners are definitely the Navy, you can say.
The banks, yeah.
Yeah, and from that perspective, we are, of course, a bit of pirates, and that's also why the banks created Swish. It was to give some possibilities of being pirates, to do things differently and maybe do things a bit quicker and so on. So when I joined 5 years ago, it was more driven like a project. So Swish at that time, before we came in at that time as 3 people, they had like, okay, let's do one product, and then they brought in resources from the banks, and then Bankirot and HiQ had to did development, and then everyone went home, and then it was time again to do something, and that of course it didn't work. It had worked well for the first year, and that was of course a very good way, cost-efficient way of doing things. But to scale up, we had to do something differently. And
you can't just sell the pirate ship and buy a new one next time. You need to be constantly sailing and developing and
exactly
nibbling, as you said, on the other big fishes.
Exactly, and at that time I think that yeah, and when I think also that time the different banks had to like bring in and suggest resources to come in, and I was suggested to be one of the resources as a consultant. And I think it was because I am, as you know, a bit of a pirate as well, to put that mindset in a way in the development and the product development part.
Yeah.
And of course, it has been that way we have tried to do things and really change things. We were fast in that way to introduce a more agile way of working from a real true waterfall model, which it came from with these big projects, launching the new services or products. And when we came in, it was a bit chaotic, and we had to do things completely different and challenge everything. So that was, and as you say, then it's really fun to be a pirate. But it's also, of course, it takes a lot of energy and so on to change, and sometimes you feel like you always sail against the wind. But that is also, at least for me, I like that. I rather have 80% front wind than just tailwind. Then things are too easy, and I guess that's also what the pirates prefer. If you everyone expects you to go with a tailwind, but you should
Yeah, you have smaller boats and you can maneuver faster, and you catch up with these sort of big tankers easily.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so it's been yeah, and that is also, of course, you guys know that as well, and I mean, we are in that environment. We have worked fast, we have grown fast, and then you have to keep this kind of pirate mentality. Although when you get more people, in a way, you need to be structured as well. And yeah, sometimes some of the pirates, they don't like all of this structure either, but of course,
But you
maybe.
need some for because otherwise it's hard to sail a big boat. Because if you're getting bigger, I think structure comes with, but I think the mentality is important still, as you say, to keep that.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be a pirate. It's more, as Steve Jobs said, it's much more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy, because this is room for creativity, ingenuity, and a lot of things will happen if you are out there, and you never know what, but it's going to be interesting. They talk about 4 roles. I have to tell you this as well in this book. In order to succeed, you don't have to be that many. Well, there could be many, I guess, pirates as well, but the leadership needs 4 roles. It needs a denter, someone who wants to dent the world. Someone, with a very thick forehead and just wouldn't give up until they have sort of changed the world. That's a good role to have. Then you need an implementation rhino, he talks about, and that is basically one who can juggle 10 balls, never drop a single ball, and takes care of everything. And then you need an idea monkey, someone that is extremely creative and coming up with ideas all the time, and maybe doesn't sort of care about if there is too many balls in the air for the implementation rhino, because they certainly come with new ideas. And then they talk about the sponsor as well, which may not be in the core team itself, but it's someone who would just clear the way, who says, well, don't mess with my guys or my team, because could you identify some of those people in your journey with Swish? Have Kalle Molinero, has he been the sponsor for it? That sort of just kept everybody away from, so you could keep being, or is it Anna-Lena Wretman who's, or is there someone else who's taken the role of keeping the Navy away from you reasonably well?
I think that has been different people along the journey I have been in. I mean, there were of course a few in the beginning as well, but then the last 5 years, and which I have experience from, when we came in, and that was mainly me and Morteza, the architect, we had real good sponsors from the board at that time. There was Kalle, and it was Thomas Glimstedt. Those two really were sponsors. So we came into to the team and was about to we had a clear mission to change the mindset and the way of working, and create much more outcome, and much go from waterfall to agile, pretty much. And we we had to take a lot of fights in order to go that direction, both with the external parties, but also our internal people. But we knew that with the board behind us, and especially these 2 people, we could execute and make the change. Although we didn't make every decision correct, we knew that they would be behind us in order
that's important, in order to dare to have that courage. You need someone who cover up for you, who have your back, basically. And that's good. Who are you, Magnus? Are you the denter, implementation rhino, or the idea monkey?
Sometimes it depends. Sometimes I'm the denter. Some cases I have been that, sometimes I have been the idea monkey, and sometimes I have been the implementation rhino as well. So it has been, and I think that is important as well, that you can take up the different roles depending on which people you have in the team or the current situation you are in. At the moment, I mean, when we have been growing, there has been a lot more pressure from my end to be more of an implementation rhino in order to like support and help both the ecosystems and the partners, but also new people coming in.
If you're more of a generalist and not, well, you are sort of a bit of both, Magnus. You're a generalist, you can do many things, but you're also a specialist in many things. But if you're that broad, it's probably better to be, not a consulting jumping around. It's more fun then to be on a ship and do a bit of many things, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So
yeah.
But it's a trick actually to you have to also be doing a lot of different things in order to be on top of things.
Yeah.
I see now when I'm employed that I have a harder time to be as on top of mind with all of the different things going around in the world compared to when I was a consultant and was exposed all the time, but all of the different questions and so on.
Yeah.
So I think that is also something for all companies to be more aware of. How can you keep track of everything going around in the world? Because things are going fast. It's not just something you say. It is. And I mean, if you wouldn't have looked to India or China, for instance, you could have easily missed out what has been.
No, I agree, and a lot of people think that that in some respect they're so far ahead as well, and it's breakneck speed, sort of what they do. I have to ask you, Magnus, sort of. You've been tracking us and being aware of us since our first love meeting in November 2018. And now we're coming with digital cash. And I know you sent me the Visa paper saying, look, Visa thinks the same thing as you do. And I said, well, I know, I got it from RAM long ago. But what do you think of our future with the digital cash? Can we really sail the seven seas with the digital cash, do you think? Or is this will it be a niche thing? Where will this end up? Because we are coming with an innovation here that hasn't really been around before.
Yeah, but I think it can be one of the different game changer. I think even in an Ericsson country, as I said, there is a lot of different use cases where it's could really be interesting. And then I think the other part which you can bring in with digital cash is actually to be anonymous. In some cases, you might want to be that. And I mean, we have almost replaced cash in Sweden, but there is of course parts of the economy which can never be replaced. But then there is also parts of the economy where people would like to be. They just want to maybe buy a paper without actually people being able to trace what they bought. I mean, there are these small things.
I think our liquor store, the Swedish liquor store, Systembolaget, is a good example. People use cash because they don't want the bank to see that they have been there probably one time too many. And shouldn't you have a right as a person, for integrity reason, not to that the banks have to know everything just because you have to pay digitally? Certainly in Sweden, when cash is disappearing, I think it's become a very important issue for us.
Yeah, and I think that requirement, I mean, I think that we as a society have almost replaced all the cash we can. So there is a few use cases left, and one of them is what you can actually offer by giving the opportunity for people to being anonymous.
Yeah, and I look at this, Magnus, as almost like you have a telecom background just like me. And on your mobile phone, you can just say you don't want to display the A number, your own number when you call. I think it's the same thing. You can just have a switch in Swish, saying that I don't want to display my, the bank shouldn't know. So and that it would be quite simple. It would just be you as a switch in the middle, the wallet, you would tell sort of the remitting bank, the bank who's paying, that you have paid, if you are at Systembolaget now, I've bought a bottle of wine for 100 krona, but all it says is that I have paid Swish 100 krona. And then to the beneficiary bank, it says, well, which is Systembolagets bank, it would say that, well, you have received 100 krona from Swish, but there is no record. You somewhere there will be a digital trace somewhere, but we can hide that from even from the banks, which I think it is an I think that would be a sort of an integrity issue that I think we should.
Yeah, but then we have a very simple request, and that's from fundraising companies, or actually rather from the consumers, that we would be able to give gifts to fundraising companies and be anonymous.
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't want to, some people would like to send maybe a bigger amount of money, but don't get anything, thanks SMSs or whatever they do. They would, and then they have to do other kind of means in order to do that. So there is a lot of good causes.
Same way there, Magnus. You could say that if I want to donate, I send it to Swish, and the Swish will be the big Santa Claus of Sweden, and that you're getting money from Swish. That's all it would say, but it would be an anonymous transaction then in that sense. It would be, and in some sense that it doesn't really have to do with digital cash in a way. It is a cash feature that you can be anonymous, but you could do that today, I think, without. For this, it would be an e-commerce transaction, not physical transaction, as I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course, or someone could take that role. Since we cannot hold any money in that sense, we couldn't do it.
No, but you wouldn't hold any money.
No.
You would always mirror the transaction. Just split it in two. That's how I'm saying.
Yeah, actually, and of course there are great possibilities. So I see a lot of different use cases, but then you have to. Then there will always be when you talk about like digital cash in that sense, it's always a struggle, or like you will always be challenged by the risk and compliance departments, both from the national bank, the financial inspection, the banks, and so on. I mean, of course, there is great. There is always better when you have a full trace, but as you say, as long as you can say that if there is a crime, you can, of course, do the full match.
Yeah, it's just that it needs maybe a court order or whatever. Just like you on telecom, in order to eavesdrop, not everybody can just do it randomly. You need it has to have some checks and balances for the control as well, which I think would be important for people.
It's quite funny. When Swish was launched, the first summer it was available, there was a lot of robberies. And then the robbers, they say, "Hey, please swish me."
Swish me. Yeah, that's not too smart. Yeah.
No, so the police then they got all the phone numbers of all of the different guys, and then
they didn't think about that. They didn't think about that.
But there was no information needed to say to anyone that don't rob people with Swish. That was faster than internet.
I guess that rumor came out quickly in the prisons. So I did a bad thing. I robbed someone with Swish. That was they stopped quickly with that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But then therefore it's so it's interesting, some of the discussions when you talk about like when you go digital with the cash and digital with these things, because you can always, when you have a digital like a stamp, in one way you can of course trace everything. Then some people, you can read in the newspaper, okay, there has been a lot more black transactions with Swish. No, they are just visible now compared to.
Yeah. You mean on the black market, sort of these kind of things? Yeah. No, I agree. Before it was just happening with cash.
Yeah, no one had a clue, and suddenly there is a trace. And of course, those when you go into the gray area, they will never even go digital cash.
No, because they know they could be traced on. Yeah,
but I believe
Yeah.
And of course, that's not the way you should target it. But then you have all of these great other use cases where there is a great need, and we hear it every day. And then to have make the system much more resilient is, of course, also very important.
Yeah, we actually going to do this week. It's all about different payment schemes, and we haven't gone into detail really about of real-time payment. But I think we almost this is the longest interview ever, Magnus. So you've broken a new interview record. So hooray for that. But we're going to do sort of payment security for next week. So I'm going to have people who are security experts and really try to dig into security aspects around digital cash, because obviously it's sort of an issue. What will happen if you now all of a sudden are sort of having you need a digital trust environment in a separate way if you're not having it online, and that's what we're really gonna dive into next week with 3 experts on that matter. So it's but Magnus, I think as always, it's been great. It's been fun, and thanks for staying a pirate. Well, I know I don't have to thank you, or I don't have to convince you. I think once a pirate, always a pirate. So
thank you. It's been really fun.
Yeah, no, so keep it up, and congrats to you and the whole Swish team for an amazing journey that you've had with the whole product, and also thanks to you to being so open and willing to provide a platform for innovation, and because I always have found you really easy to work with, and it's really always a pleasure. So I really want to thank you for that as well, Magnus, and also for doing this. I'm gonna put the name of this interview gonna be not real-time payment, but real-time pirate. That's gonna be the title for this interview.
That's good. I like that.
Excellent, Magnus. So thanks so much, and take care. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Bye.